And we are on Friday Grief Chat with Jill and Deb.
Hi there. Sorry for the
Hello.
glitch, everybody.
You
We
know,
had
when
a
you're,
technical difficulty.
as in when you're scheduling from the Pacific Coast, but the program's on Eastern Time, even though it still was supposed to be the right date, it bumped it up ahead of date. So we're sorry. My fault.
Hey,
Happy almost Turkey Day or not Turkey Day if you don't do the turkey thing. And
right.
happy almost time for Deb to get herself to New York for the Macy's Thanksgiving parade.
I know. I'm so happy. Um, my turkey hat, I was gonna show you guys. Hey, Daryl, is my turkey hat up there? Can you just a minute? I gotta take the other thing off. I'm so excited.
I love it. Get
There
thee
you
to a
go.
parade, my friend. Get thee to a parade.
I know. I'm so happy. Um, you know, when you're and I have to tell you, it's sort of like this mixed thing, and I bet this happens to a lot of people when you're finally going to do what you want to do. Sometimes there's this little voice like, "Oh no, I'm afraid to be too happy." This happens a lot to grievers.
It
I
does.
I'm afraid to be too happy because you might
I'm not
get
supposed to be.
sad. Say again.
I'm not supposed to be.
I'm not supposed to be this like excited. Like
I might not be missing them enough.
exactly. That's this happens to people who have had a significant loss, such as people whose house has been completely destroyed by fire, and then someone says, let me take you away for a while. It's like you don't know how to relax into the joy, and there's almost a certain amount of fear when you relax into the joy,
And
like
there's a fear of coming back out of the joy and being hit headfirst
yes,
by all of it all over again.
exactly. And it's hard. It's interesting when I talk about, as well as you do. I just did a community class for basically decreasing holiday stress, and I named a number of scenarios that absolutely everyone, and the ages were from 20 to 72, okay? They all said the same thing, age 20 to 72. Every one of them talked about the major stressors are, will I feel alone? Will I be judged? Major stressors.
In fact,
Yeah.
there was a big discussion in a Facebook grief group for widows last night. Somebody who said, my son, since my husband died, has converted and become quite radical in his belief systems and is sending me proselytizing messages. And he's moved 4 hours away to be close to his church. And now he wants me to come for Thanksgiving. And he's telling me I'm not honoring the family if I don't show up. Fully half the people in the group were like, well, you need to keep the ties. You got to go. And the other half were, wait a minute. He lost his dad, but you lost your spouse.
Yeah.
If you don't want to drive 8 hours, you can't. If you've already driven 4 hours to get there, you certainly can't leave early to get out if it doesn't go well. She just wants to stay home.
And staying home maybe is something she needs to do.
Right. And, other people, they need to go out, but it's that judgment thing. You didn't
Yes,
do the right thing according to whomever, whoever the
exactly.
judge of holidays is.
Exactly. The I made a joke of it at the end, but I discussed, how do you get permission to do something different than maybe what your family says, right? Um, we've sort of been estranged from part of the family, so no one reached out to us the last couple years. It didn't happen. I think we did reach out. Daryl made a couple of the favorite simpler stuff, and they took it gladly, never asking us about anything. um Someone else today was doing another kind of self-care. The person who was a drug addict had to move out of their house. Absolutely. He had to say, you have to get out. The police were called, blah, blah, blah. And I gave this person permission to say, it's okay to say to the family, I'm not able to take your calls right now, and start not taking calls till you're done with your workday. Because they kept calling him because their son was was the was the addict, right? So they're calling and harassing basically. But this is, people talk about boundary lines. I'm sorry if I'm sounding a little confusing, but people talk about boundary lines, and I say it's self-care. And in the beginning, you do feel selfish.
Yes.
Because for like once you're making it about you and not your kids. You're making it about you and not your spouse. You're making it about you and not the rest of the family that only talks to you 3 times a year. So it's, holidays are a hard time to start doing this self-care. But like I told my whole class, if anybody says, why are you doing this? You just tell them Deb Hart gave me permission to do it.
That's exactly right.
I mean, like, Jill and I, to our listening audience, are giving you permission. We can be your scapegoats. Where did you get such a thought? Deb and Jill. Oh,
Deb and Jill said so. I used
Deb
to
and
put
Jill
notes
gave us permission.
when I worked for hospice and we had family who, or visitors who were not being respectful of time for at homes where someone was dying. I would get permission. Then I'd put a note on the door saying the hospice would like to limit the visits to 5 minutes or less. Then if the family wanted someone to stay longer, they could.
Yeah.
But no, the social worker and the nurse said, you got to go.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing with grief. You have permission to do this any way you want. And you have permission to enjoy the holidays. You have permission to cancel the holidays.
You do.
Right?
You have permission to say, you know, even if you have the family over, I just couldn't make grandma's favorite casserole. I just had all this anxiety and I wasn't able to. The other thing, if you can give a heads up to family members and say, I'm not able to, are you? Because
You could
sometimes
do that.
they just depend on one person to make all the decisions. And I'm like, you're kidding me, right?
There's also that piece about when a major, not that everyone in a family isn't a major member of it, but when the person who was matriarch or organizer or whatever, the party planner, is the one who has died or is absent for whatever reason, then everybody kind of needs to take a look at how that shift works and where everyone else is going to fit in.
Exactly.
Right? Because it may be a death loss. It may be another kind of loss, but you're not going to be home for Thanksgiving. Right? You've just shifted the power base at your house for Thanksgiving.
We had a few years to warm up because no one was talking to us, really.
Right?
Yeah, so we could shift it a little. you know, it's harder to start that kind of self-care, and yet this is as good a time as any to
It's an
say,
excellent time.
yeah, it when someone dies, and with all the memorials and funerals, it gives you the opportunity to take that leftover love, right? That
Hmm.
love they that was ever present with them, and use that energy to do self-care. Perhaps your self-care is, I really need to turn off all social media and I need to read a book. Or if you're me, I'm just going to watch the Thanksgiving Day parade and sit on the couch
In
and watch.
person.
I get to do it in person with a very good friend of mine. And Daryl, God love him, he hates New York City. And he is so happy that my friend Jan and I are going.
And
It's,
he is
it's
not.
he is grateful that Jan doesn't mind going to New York City. I'm telling you, it takes a village to raise this wife.
It takes a village to make it all work. Our village is having their first without my mom this year. So
Absolutely.
we made turkey for our homeless program for church. Next week, we are going to initiate our as yet unpurchased pizza oven that will be in the backyard, joining all the other barbecue equipment because one can never have enough barbecue equipment in one's backyard. So we have the barbecue, we have the flat top, we have the turkey fryer, and now we're going to have a pizza cooker. So, all the things. But we're making pizza just for the three of us.
Perfect.
And then my sister's going to do her vegetarian thing with her vegetarian daughters at her house. And everybody's going to just do their thing. And then later on, some of us may have dessert together, but not traditional Thanksgiving because it's just not that year.
You know, and it is your first year without two parents. So it's not just the one parent, it's both.
And it's
And
two of us. Yeah,
it's two of you. That's right.
we're completely parentless. And those who have losses around the holidays have those recur. So my
Yes.
second wife, Casper, died in early December. And by Thanksgiving, she was no food, no fluids. And that was probably the worst Thanksgiving I can ever remember. So
Right.
we sent the kids off to go to the Rainforest Cafe at downtown Disney
Yeah.
and then had Denny's takeout. And because the smell of food was just, you can't have food smells in a house when someone's
Yeah.
not eating. It's just not fair,
It is.
even if they're not hungry, which she was not. And so after that, we made Thanksgiving about going other places.
You know, I just remember how the anticipation of Thanksgiving after my mom died and being with family that didn't really like me anyway. The only one who really liked me was Daryl's mom. And I explained to her it had nothing to do with her. And she really understood
Hmm.
why I just wanted to not have major Thanksgiving there. And I would just go to, um, I felt better serving others. So we served at the high school, my daughter and I. And we sort of made that for about 3 years, which sounds about right in integrating
That's
that
about that time
loss.
period. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I'd mind being on a cruise this time of year at some point. I
Uh-huh.
just don't want to be around that many people right now.
Yeah, yeah. No, no. But sometime, you
Hmm.
might be able to. It's it's almost like gluttony. What we would do is, because part of a step family and one parent always has to have it a certain way, and then there's other parents because they're all married, and we said it's not that important to us,
Mhm.
like I know I said I'm not subjecting people to turkey. So I always made like barbecue, Italian beef, or sushi and sushi. I did
There
both.
you go.
Make your
Yeah.
own sushi. Do something different, folks, if that's what suits you. And people will adjust. If they don't, that tells you a lot more about their mental health.
When you are the one grieving, it's up to you to decide what works.
That's
Steve
right.
said he's feeling blessed this year. He has Leslie here. That's his sister-in-law to keep him focused. I also have other family coming for Thanksgiving. It's going to be a beautiful day. That
That
sounds delightful, Steve.
it is because you actually haven't felt that way in a few years.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
going to taste good because he's a good cook.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so
I
I just go ahead, Jill.
I did order in the pure Italian tomato sauce that my friend Cindy Doyle that we've had on the show
Yeah.
uses. So we're gonna have fresh Italian tomatoes on our pizzas.
That's yum, yum,
So
yum,
excited.
yum. Good. Good. That's, you know, I think Daryl and a friend of ours, they got together and I said, great. They're probably going to eat at one of the restaurants that is open, I think. Either
Hmm.
that or maybe she's cooking or I don't know. I don't think she's never been a big cook. So, yeah.
Well, in our town in Riverside, California, we have the beginning of the Festival of Lights this weekend, which is one of the top 3 in the country now, which means all of Riverside avoids downtown for the next 7 weeks. But it is pretty spectacular. So if you get a chance to like Google Earth downtown Riverside for
I
the
will.
holidays, it is pretty spectacular. Last year they did set off fireworks that from the top of our historic Mission Inn hotel and set the Mission Inn on fire, but they got the fire out pretty quick. So yeah. Lots
Mm-mm.
of ways to manage holidays. There are some
Yeah.
other things you can do because as we're going into Thanksgiving, even if you're running away to New York, there are other holidays coming. Hanukkah is rolling right in after this one.
I
It's
don't know when it
earlier
is
this year. It's the first week and a half or so
of
of
December.
December.
Okay.
We've just finished Diwali,
Mm-hmm.
and we have all the other ones coming up too. So this is the official, oh my gosh, now what do we do? If you're grieving, you don't have to have a perfect holiday season. You don't have to keep all the traditions. You don't have to watch the commercials. You don't have to do any of it.
You know, one another thing in case you are, and I want to come up with some practical plans. If you are having a big holiday and and you're still having that pang like my mom and dad aren't here or something, one of the things I like to do is get white roses to remember my ancestors that I would have been having holiday with that are not here. You know, folks, you don't need somebody else to buy you flowers. You can buy them. And if you're highly allergic, please go to one of the craft shops and buy silk ones or whatever, polyester or whatever they are. Get something to remember them by. Another thing we like to do is I did not want any china. I did not want anything like that. Daryl and I aren't those kind of peeps. But we do have a few dishes specifically from Daryl's mom, physical plates. And we would serve that. We would make her recipe. And
Like it.
well, she always made fresh noodles. And Daryl and I, on top of everything else, would make noodles. We don't make noodles anymore. Somebody else can make them.
My mom was pot roast and fresh fruit salad. That was pretty much her repertoire, as well as when we were little, she used to make the fried Swedish cookies, the ones that you put on
Oh
the
yeah.
dipping hat. Yeah, that one. So I'm not doing those because, yeah, spattering oil in the kitchen sounds like no fun at all.
No, no.
No, but we will use her myrtle wood plates when we
Oh,
serve
see?
for Christmas Eve.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that's, you
But we
know,
don't have to be big. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be whatever you want it to be.
when you get to say, and I think I had printed this off also for some of my, for the people in the class, you get to say something big and awkward and life changing happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to say it's fine. You can say, I just had a big bubba of an experience. I'm integrating.
And you can also acknowledge sometimes in those years where we lose someone or have a big loss of some sort, we also can have moments of joy. So this year, it's the first Christmas without my mom, but it's my daughter Carrie's first Christmas in her new house. It's our first Christmas without my mom. It's our first Christmas with the presence of our new grandson, Oliver, right? He won't be here with us, but you have those moments that you have to sort of, how do I integrate all of that at the same time?
You
How do we
know,
do that, Deb? What are some great ideas for that? As you
excuse me.
choke, it's not good.
See this sign?
And that's exactly right.
Make a compound sentence. Connect everything with and. You can. Deb Hart is giving you permission to not make a grammatically or grammatically correct sentence. You can say, I feel like crap. And I do want to do one thing special. And I have several ideas. And I think I'll choose the one that's the easiest.
That's exactly right. Steve
Put
is
four
telling us
ands in
that
that sentence.
that's exactly right. He wanted anything that he didn't have to chew that would go down easily because Harrell died of ALS because of military service.
Yeah.
But he always had challah, especially for the Hanukkah holidays. So yes, absolutely. There's your and.
Yes.
You may not be able to swallow, and you're going to have challah and enjoy it because it's important to have it.
You know, it was important for Daryl and I to make noodles, and we prepared absolutely everything else.
Right.
You know, we took the extra stress hit because it was important to us.
Mm-hmm. This year, I think I'm going to make Swedish meatballs. I never make them myself. I usually depend on my friends at IKEA, but this year I think that may end up on the plate on Christmas Eve. And I will enjoy them even though there will be someone missing at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
People have a hard time, and I just read this, I don't know where. People say, let me know if you need anything. And your mind is mush. So how can you let them know?
You tell them.
Sorry,
You put some
guys.
posts up and tell people how you're doing with the holidays. You tell people that you're missing people because you know what that does? It gives other grievers permission to acknowledge their losses at this time of year.
Exactly.
Instead of locking it all down like, oh, I can't make other people sad because I've had a loss. We know you've had a loss. Acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what that person would have enjoyed for the holiday.
Yeah.
Laugh about the things that were great. Right?
You can, Deb Hart and Jill Johnson Young give you permission to say, I'm not able to do it all. Can you bring, and you just start knocking off stuff on your list. Can you go to the store and buy? Can you do blah, blah? Because also in this group the other day, 90% their children just want to be kids
Hmm.
and not offer anything. So we give you permission to call up each and every family member that is coming, each family,
And give them a thing.
and give them something to do. You asked, I'm asking,
Hmm.
you know?
And you have permission to bring up the people and things that are missing, right? You have permission. One of the things that I like to do is, like, if for some of my clients, is the family tablecloth. You
Mm-hmm.
can make ornaments for the holidays coming up
Yep.
that are memorializing. You can sing the silly songs. You can play the music that reminds you. You can play the game that you used to play together and someone can play for them, or you can talk about how they used to cheat,
Yep.
right? You can do all the things. You can watch the favorite movie
Mm-hmm.
or boycott the favorite movie because it's too hard that year, right?
A real easy that I have done for years when I had Thanksgiving here. If you need to keep your grandkids busy at any of the stores right now, they
Mhm.
have the cookie kits, not the ones where you make the cookies. They have the kits. You can get ugly sweater kit. That's all sweet stuff. And you can buy them and you can set that out and say, we're all going to decorate our own cookie.
Absolutely. You
Make it
can make you
easy.
can make Rice Krispie treat houses because kids actually eat those,
You can,
and they're easy to do.
the other the thing to do is you get tubs of frosting. You can have fondant, but that's expensive. I buy the cheap frosting. I throw tons of powdered sugar into it, just a whole bunch. Mix it because you want it to be so thick, like glue. And there's probably a couple other things you can put in there, and just get graham crackers and
Mhm.
pretzel rods and pretzels, and take out some, cereal or candy, throw it there and say, build something.
The other thing you can do is take some pictures while you're there for the holiday. Get some little wooden ornaments at like Michael's,
Yeah.
or for not very much. Or if you've got a tree limb that you've cut down, those make great ornaments too. If you cut them in dowel into rounds, and you can actually send everyone home with an ornament from that holiday, and you can make memorial ornaments together right then and there, right?
You can take pictures, and there's plastic ornaments. You don't have to get
Mhm.
glass ones. Plastic ones, round. You put some, yes, there you
There's
go.
my L right there.
That's right. And you could put, like, sometimes people collect buttons or anything. This is grandma collected buttons. So
Hmm.
everybody put a few buttons in there, put a little snow, put a little this, and you have something. Ribbon.
You can decorate a menorah with those buttons and those
Hmm.
pictures. There's lots of different ways you can decorate the candle holders for Kwanzaa.
Hmm.
Right? There's lots of ways we can use the time together to remember the people who are missing
Yes.
and celebrate them. All the ands
And
without too much energy on your part.
and give yourself permission to take yourself out of the equation and
Mhm.
have quietness. If that's what you need, then that's what you can do.
Give yourself
Deb
some
Hart
oodle time.
and Jill Johnson Young give you, our listening audience, there we go, our permission to use us as a scapegoat to say, well, they gave me permission. There you go.
Yep. Buddy does too. For those of you who can't see, Buddy's joined
Oh,
us today.
he's a sweetheart. What a
He says you
sweetheart.
should always take time out to pet the creatures around you.
Yes,
That will center you at this time of year.
that's right. That's
All right.
right.
So next week it'll be Jill holding down the fort for Thanksgiving weekend.
It will, because I'll be in New York City.
Have a wonderful time, my friend. We will see you in
Thank
2
you.
weeks.
You
Everybody
will.
join me. We're going to talk about food memories that came up on Thanksgiving and all kinds of everything else.
Sounds wonderful. Thanks
Happy
all.
Thanksgiving. Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye-bye.